voice, and we're telling the stories of Kansas City nonprofits and the people behind them. KC Cares is the intersection of the nonprofit and profit communities, making Kansas City a better place to live, work, and play. This KC Cares segment is brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kauffman Foundation, www.kauffman.org. The COVID pandemic was such a trying time in so many ways. We looked for anything to brighten our days as the health crisis just drug on. Well, in 2022, one of the bright spots in Kansas City was the appearance of 156 5'5" three-dimensional hearts uniquely designed by local artists. These hearts popped up all over the metro and eventually were auctioned with proceeds benefiting local charities. The Parade of Hearts has helped our region become stronger. To say the least, these lively sculptures captured our hearts, and they're back. This year's Parade of Hearts features 40 hearts scattered throughout the metro. And among those who've been involved from the get-go is Eileen Weir, the former mayor of Independence. With her leadership as the Community Engagement Committee chair, Eileen is at the forefront of this year's effort, pulling in all aspects of our community. How does she do it? Well, let's find out because Eileen is joining us today. Eileen, it's so great to have you.
Oh, it's great to be here. It's good to see you again.
The same here. So I have to own up. I've had connections with Eileen in her official elected capacity. And little did I know you had this whole background thing going on. You're a lady that does incredible things, including jumping out of planes and skydiving onto presidential library lawns and everything else. So we appreciate the time. But talk a little bit about how you became engaged with Parade of Hearts.
Okay, well, it's a very interesting story. And I've had a very interesting life and career. So there's a lot to talk about. So when I was mayor of Independence, the Parade of Hearts public art experience was launched. And it was presented as, this was going to be a regional event that was to celebrate, all of the communities within our region through this public art experience. And I was also at the time serving on the board for Arts KC, our regional arts council. So Arts KC was involved as well. So I kind of was involved in a couple of different ways. So Parade of Hearts was, the idea actually went back several years. And then because of COVID, it got put on hold. And then, as we were coming out of COVID, starting to come out of COVID, the idea resurfaced to say, why don't we go ahead and try this out as a way to really recover from COVID. We had been so disjointed, so isolated that it was, really presented as a way to bring our communities back together. And not only the pandemic, but also an enormous amount of other types of civil unrest were certainly happening politically, racially, civically. It was a hard and dark and difficult time. So it's really to celebrate our diversity, to celebrate our connection as the communities of the Kansas City metropolitan region. And so I was approached to participate, as were, nearly every mayor in our region. And I really challenged the idea of this being a regional event. As the mayor of Independence, which is the second largest city in Jackson County and the fifth largest city in the state of Missouri, I often found that regional initiatives ultimately did not include the region. We live next to the largest city in the state. Obviously, Kansas City, Missouri attracts most of the attention, as it should, as the heart of our community. But yet, I and other mayors on both sides of the state line, both sides of the river, often felt that regional efforts were not equitable across all of these cities and communities. So I was given a personal pledge by Jen Nussbeck, who's the executive director of Parade of Hearts, that this would be different. And it was. It was executed and continues to be executed in a way that really values and respects all of the communities equally in our great metropolitan area, and really guides people to learn more about some of the communities that they may not be as familiar with, but also, to learn about things that they think they know, but maybe they don't, explore some areas of Kansas City, Missouri, and of, the larger Overland Park and some of Leawood and, some of the larger cities on both sides of the state line.
I think it's so interesting that you talk about how regional efforts really aren't regional, but you all have been able to do that. What's the secret? How were you able to kind of keep that fair field, bring everyone to the table?
Yeah, it's really just a commitment from, first and foremost, the board of Parade of Hearts, and then all of the people who work on committees, all of the volunteers, and the artists. This couldn't happen without the artists, and every single one of these hearts is designed and created by a local artist. We had hundreds of submissions for a small number of hearts that we were able to select. So it's really just a constant and deliberate intention to say, are we meeting our goals? Are we staying true to what we promised? And, my role as the community engagement chair is to make sure that we are thinking about those things and reaching out into, all the nooks and crannies all around our region. We have a committee of about 40 people from, we can't have somebody from every town and village and city, but we are very deliberate in being inclusive of communities. And there's a very large public engagement component to Parade of Hearts. We have available now a form which people can fill out and suggest locations for 2024. This year is a little bit different, and we'll talk about that and why that is. But next year we'll go back to 100 plus hearts all over the region. So we're encouraging people right now to fill out that form, send us suggestions of places where you would like to see hearts. And it's really helped us to discover communities that may have not been well represented in various ways, and meet people and build those relationships.
Well, let's talk about how this really was so grassroots with Jen. We've been lucky to have her on the show before, and it just seemed like it just blossomed. Be very transparent with us. So you get these nominations or applications of designs for hearts. And so what's the process of choosing what you choose?
Well, there's a committee who does that. It's, we have a jury committee made up of artists, civic leaders, business leaders, art, people who know what they're talking about and looking at art, and they review them and make their selections. There's obviously certain requirements, since the hearts are displayed out of doors for several months. So there's some requirements about those types of things. But it's really just a judgment of concept, execution, the story behind the creation. You'll see, this year there's several hearts that celebrate the Kansas City Chiefs, for various reasons, and so it's just it's just a process, and there's tons of submissions that we just don't have enough hearts to be able to do them all. So we just encourage people, the artists, to submit again next year, and the 2024 submissions will be opening up later, early this summer. So it'll give people another opportunity to submit their designs.
Now, there's a whole charity component to this.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that, and was that intentional as well?
Yes, it was very intentional. Initially, the beneficiary was going to be the University of Kansas Health System. That was when it was, ultimately launched after COVID. That was expanded to really take into consideration the industries that were so severely impacted by the pandemic. Because we use the heart, a large portion of the fundraising effort is focused on heart health, and the University of Kansas Health Center, or Health System, I'm sorry. So they are a beneficiary. There was, in 2022, the artist community was a beneficiary, and that was administered through Arts KC, which I mentioned earlier. The hospitality industry are, servers and food service, hospitality service workers. So those were all very intentional. The Mid-American Regional Council assisted us with that in 2022 to help administer that. So a huge shout out to the Greater Kansas City Community Foundation, who's been just an incredible partner with Parade of Hearts. They assisted us in selecting the recipients for 2023 and 2024. So again, the KU Health System is a beneficiary, Children's Miracle Network, and the artist community continues to be a beneficiary as well. Then there was a open call for applications for the fourth beneficiary. So as you can imagine, we got hundreds of submissions for nonprofit organizations, of which we have so many incredible ones in our area. And the Family Conservancy was selected as the fourth beneficiary. So, we were very excited about that. And it's an outstanding opportunity to learn about the great work that the Family Conservancy does.
So how is the fundraising done? Obviously, the artists create these hearts. I understand they receive a stipend. So it's not just give us these wonderful hearts for, with no remuneration. But so how's the other component work then?
We have incredible sponsors. You'll see as you travel around and scan your hearts and take photos of the hearts as they're on display, that each one of those hearts is sponsored by a local company. Then at the end of Parade of Hearts, we have an auction. Last year, it was a big event down at the Midland Theater. And there's an online component where people bid on hearts online, and then we reserved a certain number of hearts for a live auction. So then those proceeds benefit the charitable causes as well. This year, we are only going to do an online auction. We are not going to do a live auction because of what we're calling our limited edition of having 40 hearts this year. And then next year, we'll go back to a larger number of hearts and, do the auction. So, there's sponsors, there's auction, we sell merchandise. So there's a whole lot of merchandise available online for people to purchase and, show their pride in our heartland and the Parade of Hearts program.
This seemed like
And the artists, I will say, yes, the artists are compensated. And we added something this year. There was a public reveal of all 40 hearts that was held at the American Royal. And the artists were there to interact with the public, and they had the opportunity to also sell their art. Each one of them got a space that they could display and sell their art, which was phenomenal. We had hoped to have 1,000 people attend that. There was a lot of family activities going on around that. One of our sponsors, wrapped cars and let kids and people doodle on the cars. And we had over 4,000 people attend. So it was an incredible, incredible success. And a wonderful opportunity for these artists, to show their art, sell their art, and interact with the public.
It seems like such a natural thing, yet you and your creative team all came up with this concept. I remember the cows, and a lot of people probably remember the cows, and it was wonderful. At the same time, I think some people may have cringed a little bit and said, do I want to be at Cowtown? So having a heart in the heartland is phenomenal. Why did you all make the decision this year to only do 40?
Oh, wow. It was never supposed to be an annual event. I mean, originally it was going to be a one-time event, but the response was so incredible that the decision was made to extend it for a few more years. So it's a mammoth undertaking. My little lane is this, but just the sponsorships, producing the hearts, selecting the artists, finding the locations, all the logistics around getting the locations. And this year we're what I'm calling a heart transplant, where they're in one location. They were in one location through May. And then they are moving to different locations through the 4th of July holiday. So there's a lot that goes into it. So the decision was made that in order to be able to do it in 2023, we needed to shrink it. But with the NFL draft happening in Kansas City in April, we just felt, the decision was made that we just couldn't miss the opportunity to do Parade of Hearts, in the same time frame as all of these people were coming to Kansas City for the NFL draft, and our community was in the national spotlight once again. And so in order to be able to pull it off, we had to do this limited edition. But we like to say the only thing that's limited about it is the number of hearts. The creativity, the number of things being on this team that we come up with and create and try almost on a daily basis. There's always another, why don't we do this? Why don't we try that? A little surprise that's coming that wasn't planned, and just this amazing team of energetic, creative people just make it happen.
We've got to talk about, how do you run something like this? Is anybody paid?
Oh yeah, I mean, yes.
There's staff. So there is staff that is working on this and is
yes.
okay.
Yes, there is, but it's there's contracts for different aspects of the Parade of Hearts to handle the promotion, logistics, events, all of those things. But, that's a very small portion. It relies so much on just incredible volunteers, the community, our sponsors, our beneficiaries are critical to all of that as well. They just, lend us so much support, the financial backing, the expertise. So yeah, it takes a lot of people, and we want it to, and we want that to be ever expanding. It's critical that people all in and around our region participate in many ways. Just going and looking at the hearts, posting it, engaging with us on social media, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. We have media partners who help us incredibly to get the word out. And, it is a fundraiser, but it's just so much more than that. I mean, it's just an experience. And the cows, I do remember that. That was, gosh, I feel like I was just new to Kansas City when that happened. And it was a really cool project. But it was it was a project that happened in lots of different communities. Parade of Hearts is just uniquely ours. It was born and created right here in our community, and just is very, very unique.
Well, I give credit to you all. It feels like that. It doesn't feel like, well, this is a Kansas City, Missouri project, or this is that, Independence project. And I think it's really fun when you drive around town and you see these out of the corner of your eye. You're trying to be mindful of where you're driving, but you see,
you're like,
right. And then when you see somebody stop there and it's obvious that they're taking a picture or they're reading about the heart. Yeah. I mean, that's just what's so joyful. And what a natural. We are the Heartland. So
yes.
You just created and landed on such a wonderful thing. Continuation. I know 2024, we're not yes. far away, but what is the plan for this wonderful project?
So, 2023 will wrap up, around 4th of July-ish, in that time frame. And we have a little something special planned after that. And then the hearts will be auctioned. And then right away, we're, gearing up for 2024 to go large again. There's a big international event happening in 2026 in Kansas City. So there'll be some, thought and consideration about what we do moving forward. But it will, I mean, there is an ending time for Parade of Hearts. And, it's not going to be something that's going to, go on for decades, which, we want to keep it special. And so, there'll be more to come. I can't say specifically. We're going to, we're always trying to keep it fresh, be creative, come up with new ideas and ways of doing things. So, we're definitely feel like we're, building the plane as we're flying it a lot of the time. But, we have a wonderful, just product, I would say, and concept and principles behind Parade of Hearts, so that won't change. We'll just figure out new and creative ways to share the stories. I will say there's just been things that nobody could have anticipated. These just incredibly heartwarming stories about people in our community, individuals who found a special connection with one of the hearts, and went to see them at places where they had never been. Jen may have shared this story with you previously, but one of the most touching stories from last year was Chris Good, who owns Ruby Jean's Juicery down on 30th and Troost. There was a heart at his business, and one morning, as things were sort of, Parade of Hearts was wrapping up the public part of it, he knows a woman outside, trying to get a selfie with the heart early one morning while he was opening up. And so he went out to talk to her, and she was an elderly woman in her 80s. And she said, I've lived in South Johnson County for 30 years, and I was always afraid to come down to this neighborhood. I never felt like this was someplace where I would feel comfortable or safe or be welcomed. And she said, but I've wanted to see all 156, 154, whatever that number was. I wanted to see them all, and this is my very last one. And it's just as such, that's it. That just says it all. That, a woman who had lived in this community all these years, and because of this project, went intentionally to go see all of the hearts and visit places where she had never been, and never thought that she would go. And, so, that relationship built, and they, are, to my understanding, like still stay in contact. And that's what we really want to encourage is know your neighbor, love your neighbor. And this is a great way to do that.
We'd be very remiss without giving you the opportunity. Where can people go and find all the information for Parade of Hearts, and even maybe volunteer as you get rolling towards next year?
Yeah. So the website, Parade of Hearts website, is a great resource that gives you a lot of information. That's where you can also buy merchandise, and the mobile app is the best and most fun way to experience the hearts. You just download that on, Apple, Android, whatever you have, and you can see the map where all the hearts are. You can learn about all of the artists. That's how, when you go to the heart, you can scan the QR code. You just hit scan on the app, and it will pull that up, and you can scan it, and it'll check you in. So you can keep track of all the hearts that you've seen. That's how we collect the data, where we know how many people visited each heart, which does help us, as selecting locations for the future. Is, if a heart didn't get very many, as many check-ins, then, we sort of evaluate that location. Maybe it wasn't ideal. And then, of course, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, follow on social media. There's always, there's news every week about new things and interesting things and fun things that are happening. So those are the resources. And I would say, let us reach out, let us know where you'd like to see a heart. And, we'll include that for next year. Obviously, we can't put one every place, but, we're always looking for those suggestions as well.
And it's paradeofhearts.com.
Yes.
And there's all kinds of colorful information there for sure. And shopping is lots of fun. And it all
Yes.
goes to support charities and the ongoing idea of, having these hearts in the heartland. You're having the beat goes on to swipe a song from the 60s and
Yes.
70s, as it were. Eileen, how lucky they are to have you as part of this whole endeavor, and your creativity and your energy and your
Thank you.
commitment. And thank you for spending a little bit of time with us to share all the great stuff about Parade of Hearts.
Well, thank you, Ruth. It's a great project to work on. It's a joy to be a part of it. So thank you for having me today, and happy heart hunting.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us for the Casey Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. We're produced by Charitable Communications, which is also a nonprofit. This Casey Cares segment was brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation, www.kaufman.org. If you'd like to be a guest on Casey Cares, please visit our website, kccaresonline.org, and spread the love. You'll find us on Facebook and Twitter at Casey Cares Radio, and on Instagram at Casey Cares Online. Don't forget, you can catch us on Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. on ESPN 1510 AM, 94.5 FM. Thank you for joining us on Casey Cares.